Hi, James here from Wiggle. Today we're going to be having a closer look at the Hoka Mach 4 and see if it's the right shoe for you. Okay, so the Hoka Mach 4 has seen a complete redesign, which is really nice to see. And that's everything down from a new stretchy mesh upper, which we're seeing everywhere these days, which isn't a bad thing, all the way down to a new wider outsole platform, which is just going to give us more stability. But by stability, I don't actually mean a stability shoe to help with any sort of pronation, as the shoe is completely neutral. It's just going to be a wider platform to actually give everyone a more stable run. You can definitely see that a lot of the design inspiration has been taken from the very popular Carbon X2, and they've got a very similar silhouette and look and feel to them really, although they do perform quite differently. So let's get into what this shoe is actually for. So Hoka have designed this shoe with a main focus for long distance training days. So this shoe is primarily going to give you a really cushioned landing, and I think we actually see about 5mm more midsole on the Mach 4 over the Mach 3. So it's just going to be that little bit more cushioned if you've ever run in the previous version. But what you're going to find with the Mach 4, and I guess what makes it that little bit different to what we've seen before, is the fact that it isn't quite as sluggish and, let's just say, as unresponsive as what you'd find in like the Clifton or the Rincon. So it's just going to be one of those shoes that gives you a little bit more edge and a little bit more responsiveness, I guess you'd say, than those really cushioned long distance shoes. So it's still going to be a shoe where if you need to pick up the tempo, for example, and go for a sprint finish, it's just not going to give up on you. As I briefly touched on before, it's a completely neutral shoe, so it's going to be good for those runners with a neutral running gait. It comes with this protruded heel that we see in more and more shoes these days, like we saw in the Hoka Edge, for example, and that's just going to assist in that cushioning and that sort of plush ride for those long distances. Again, we touched on this earlier a little bit, but the platform of the shoe is just that little bit wider, so that whole ground contact is going to be that little bit wider than what we had on the Mach 3. And that's really nice to see in a long distance shoe like that, as when you're getting fatigued at the end of that long run, every little bit of that extra stability when everything starts to give up slightly is going to go quite a long way. And it's really going to help with that lateral support, as your running gait might not be running quite as smoothly as it was at the beginning of the run. And the shoe also comes with a 5mm heel to toe drop. So that's basically a quick overview of what the shoe's for. Now let's have a quick breakdown and see all the tech and features in it. So firstly, even just starting with the laces, this is something that I really quite like in this shoe, as they come with a little bit of stretch in them. This is really nice, as when you've got your foot in there, it gives the shoe that whole little bit of flexibility without feeling like you've got your shoe locked in that lace cage. And it also gives your foot that really snug sort of sock-like feel that we get in a lot of shoes these days, without it feeling like it's going to cut the blood supply off. We see this in most shoes now with the tongue, but it's got these neoprene gaiters that run down from the tongue to the footbed in there, which is going to keep the tongue nice and central, as well as actually giving it that slightly plusher, more comfortable feel, as that neoprene is just quite a soft and plush material itself, so it just makes the shoe almost have a tiny little extra layer of cushioning in there. Speaking of cushioning, actually, the heel is actually quite cushionless, and there isn't actually that much padding in the whole heel cup there. But once you've actually got the shoe on, it feels super locked in, and I actually think the fact that it's got less cushioning there is part of that reason for that real good heel lock, which is definitely something that you want on those long distance runs. Another thing that's not so visual on the shoe that's really going to help with that is the fact it's actually got quite a sturdy heel counter there, which isn't very visible. This again is just really going to help with that heel hold and heel lock, and it's also going to help with that stability on those longer distance runs, which this is obviously going to be best at. The mesh upper on the shoe is again almost one of those sort of illusions with this shoe, as it looks like it's going to be one of those shoes that's super breathable that you can almost see through when you put it up to the light. But when you actually get your hand in there, you can actually feel that that mesh is actually quite a lot thicker than you would expect. So this is actually going to make for the shoe to be a lot more durable than what we saw in the past. And it's also going to make it more durable than a lot of shoes with a similar aesthetic out there. Again, like we're seeing in a lot of running shoes these days, it's got the Anatomical Achilles tab there, and that's great for that little bit of added support and just helping getting the shoe on and off as well. So now let's have a look at the insole, and it comes with a pretty standard foam, even though it is actually quite a thick foam insole there, with just a little bit of support running through it. But more importantly, if you need to swap this out for a custom footbed, then that's going to be really easy to do. We spoke about the midsole earlier, but it comes with Hoka's ProFly Midsole that you can see there. And that is really a sort of really good middle of the mill sort of midsole that's going to give you good cushioning, yet a really responsive run as well. So it's going to be good for those slightly faster long distance runs, which this is going to be really good at. And underneath that midsole, you've got this really nice sort of integrated rubberized outsole, which you can hardly tell the difference from the midsole, which is quite nice. And this is lightweight and covers all the contact points with the ground. And a really nice touch is you can just feel the difference from this cutout in the heel here, where you can feel the midsole and how soft and like responsive that sort of rubber is in the middle there to the hard wearing contact points that you're going to be touching the ground with on the outsole. So that's a quick overview of the new Hoka Mach 4. What do you think to it, and is it going to be your next shoe? Let us know in the comments. If you like this video and want to see more like it, then consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.